Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Myself, Mohammad Rizaul Islam, and I am a research intern at the Institute of Chinese Studies, New Delhi. On behalf of the Institute of Chinese Studies, I extend my warm welcome to today's ICS Wednesday seminar titled China's Criminal World Challenges and Governance. We are delighted to have with us for today's discussion, which will examine China's criminal world with gambling as a structural driver and cross border criminal network as its most resilient dimension. Since the enactment of the criminal law of 1979, successive campaigns, including Strike Hard, anti corruption drives, and the Sweeping Away campaign, have sought to suppress organized crime. Yet, illicit economies have increasingly involved around underground casinos, online betting, and lottery fraud. By the 1990s and the 2000s, organized crime have diversified into corporate fronts, rural gangsterization, and transnational syndicates, embedding gambling with both local economies and the global financial cross. Cross border gambling networks have linked Chinese operators to Southeast Asian hubs and offshore platforms, facilitating uh, capital flight, money laundering, and household ineptness. Today's seminar seeks to explore these developments and assess the challenges they pose for governance and law contemporary China. The speaker for today's seminar is Dr. Debashish Chaudhary. He is a China scholar and Chinese language expert with over 25 years of experience. He is currently an adjunct fellow at the Institute of Chinese Study and is affiliated with Vivekananda International Foundation, New Delhi. Dr. Chaudhary holds a PhD in Chinese study from the University of Delhi and has published extensively, including the book Xinjiang and the Chinese State, Violence in the Reform Era, and monograph countering internal security challenges in Xinjiang, The Rise of Surveillance State. His recent work include 100 years of entanglement, the Chinese party state, and ethnic minorities. Further, decline of human rights scenario under a COVID-19 restriction and a glimpse of China's criminal world strike hard to anti-gambling campaigns, among others. The chair for today's seminar is Mr. Santosh Pai. He is a dual qualified cross-border lawyer offering legal services to clients within the India-China corridor. He holds a BA LLB honors degree from NLSIU, Bangalore, an LLM in Chinese law from Tsinghua University, Beijing, and MBA from Lyric University, Belgium. He is a member of the CIA Core Group, China, and serves as a treasurer and member of the governing council at the Institute of Chinese Studies, New Delhi. He recently contributed a chapter to China, Indian Perspective on China's Politics, Economy, and Foreign Relations. Before I hand over to the chair, I would request all the participants to follow few of the housekeeping rules. All participants shall remain muted during this seminar. Question may be posted in the chat box along with your name and affiliation. Alternatively, you may use the raise hand option during the interactive session. You will be invited to unmute yourself and ask your question later. I now hand over to the chair. Over to you, Mr. Santosh Pai.
Thank you, Razal. And thank you, Dr. Chowdhury, for joining us this afternoon. Welcome to everyone for today's edition of the Wednesday seminar series at the Institute of Chinese Studies. Today, we have quite an exotic topic, not as popular as the geopolitical issues we normally discuss when it comes to China or even economic issues. This is something to do with more on the side of society. So today we have Dr. Chowdhury talking to us about crime in China. As we all know, crime often offers a lens into society. It reflects the changes in technology. It also gives us an insight into what's the economic state and what are the incentives operating at the lower segments of society. So today, I think Dr. Chowdhury will use gambling as an organizing principle, which links various aspects of Chinese society and which exceeds even beyond the borders of China. So I'm personally very excited to hear Dr. Chowdhury's presentation today. So I'll request him to start his presentation by sharing the screen. And I request audience members to, keep typing their questions and comments into the chat box, which I will pick up on. and our colleagues at the ICS will help me also to monitor the YouTube feed. So, Professor Chowdhury, the floor is yours. I think you need to unmute your microphone and share your presentation.
Yeah, I will do that.
Yeah, please.
Thank you for your introduction and kind words. And thank you, Razaul. Uh, Let me share my. Uh, yes. Can you see anything? Can you see anything?
Yes, we can see the presentation. I think you just need to make, yeah, now it's fine. Full screen. Yeah, please
No.
proceed. Thank you.
Okay. So, China's criminal world. I started my research with Xinjiang studies, and Xinjiang means terrorism, Xinjiang means separatism, Xinjiang means extremism, all these things, at least from the Chinese point of view. And of course, my understanding is a little different. Uh, yes, all these aspects are there in Xinjiang, but uh, so so I was not very far from the criminal world. So I will start my. This is a recent article I have published with the Vivekananda International Foundations. Thanks to Vivekananda International Foundation editorial team, and uh, and the content of today's talk little exhaustive, but I will try my best to finish it within the stipulated time. So, crime defined and differentiated. Justification in the sense that why I'm doing this at this moment. Hypothesis, traditional roots, organized crime, economic crime, gambling, diversification, social governance, and analytical insights and concluding remarks. Um, as Mr. Pai told that it is a yes, it is a social point of view I have. I will discuss. Not you will not find much economy. Uh, so crime defined in Chinese constitute Chinese criminal law. So I have cited all three criminal versions of criminal law. One is 1979, one is 1997, and 2024 edition of the law. So basically, it is an act the act endangers the sovereignty, territorial integrity, etc., subverts political power, people's dictatorship, people's democratic dictatorship, and socialist system, undermines social and economic order, etc., property and other things. Yes, talks about democratic rights of the people and personal right, and at the same time it is also talking about other crimes which are usually we know as crime, which are punishable under according to law of the land, I mean China, and in our eyes also those are crime for theft and murder and etc. And there is another point, that is an act that is obviously minor in consequences and causes little harm does not constitute a crime. I'll come to this point very soon. So these two um, article, Article 10 of 1979 edition and Article 13 of 1997 edition, that is see these two means the 79 and 97, there was a huge difference in political discourse. So we can understand the difference of the language, but the last two editions, the language is almost language is actually same. So I'm not talking about these differences anymore, but what I observe it is an abstract concept. The expression acts harmful to society is vague. It is state-centric, emphasizing on politics, power, and authority, protecting social and economic order, defending citizens' rights, not ensuring the dignity, and flexible in dealing with crimes that causes little harm. Here I want to elaborate a little bit. See, uh, crime which causes little harm. So similar kind of crimes in minority areas are treated as uh, that from the Chinese point of view that cause huge problem. But in case of similar kind of incidents, in my book, actually, I discussed about a number of almost 10 such incidents in other parts of China, and showed that surround means 30,000 people surrounding government building and smashing and everything. In case of mainland means Han areas, it is not a, it is causes little harm. So punishment was much less. So all these things is interpretation is up to the law enforcing agencies. So the crime, I eh, I understand um, crime differentiated as fluid and broad category of conduct encompassing both politically threatening and socially harmful behaviors defined by the party states, shifting priorities of governance, coercion, and stability. As differentiated as acts arising from economic disparity, cultural norms, or individual pathology, each perpetrated with the intent to harm individuals. And last one, which is my main topic today, as organized crime, engaging in extortion, trafficking, gambling, cybercrime, environmental crime, all these economic crimes and terrorism as well. So justification, I am justifying that it is not, no point of justifying this, but still, why I started this study now? Because recently I read some article where uh, there is a reference of sociologist Sun Li Ping's some ideas. He was working on social mistrust in China from the beginning of this century. And he took the example of mafia infested two regions, Sicily and Nepalese, and said that China should be careful that this Sicily Hua or Napula Sihua. So she warned Chinese people that you should avoid that. He continued, in a selfish society, trust collapses, institutions corrode, power colludes with crime, governance degenerates into thuggery, and social life becomes a jungle of violence and privilege. So, actually, talking about the jungle Raj, my hypothesis uh, in this study, anti-crime and anti-corruption campaigns might have achieved greater success had the perceived threats of ethnic, religious, and political dissent not been over-exaggerated. Second hypothetical statement is the legitimacy of anti-crime and anti-corruption campaigns might have been uh, preserved had the party state maintained a clearer boundary between political dissent and social or organized crime. So I will talk about traditional roots of crime. Yeah, we know that secret societies and has a long history in China. Many of these secret society play very decisive role in overthrowing unpopular dynasties. But basically, these gangs and secret societies were mainly involved in unlawful activities. So by Qing dynasty, there was almost 300 to 400 such gangs, and all of them were had anti-Qing mission. The term triad in Chinese San He Hui serves as a generic designation of the secret society and underground gangs. So I'm not talking, I'm not reading out entire thing. Main point is in the early 20th century, larger organizations such as Hungman, Hungman and Green Gang emerged, engaging in anti-Qing activities as well as criminal enterprises, while simultaneously pursuing both illicit and legitimate business ventures in Shanghai, other provincial cities of the mainland, Hong Kong, and Taiwan. And some of them were even involved in charities. So, the secret sources, world of the triad. I'm not, this is not very interesting thing to share with, but yes, for this study, but it is a really, this triad and deeper study is needed. But I am not focusing on this at present. Deeply rooted Taoism, Chinese cosmology, and anti-Qing rebellion. These are their rooted in these three aspects. And there are three limbs that San He Hui. One is heaven, earth, and humanity. Then finally, I want to say that these groups are uh, very ritualistic. Even today, initiation when initiation ceremonies of new members include blood oath and passing under cross swords and all these things. So this is the traditional world of triads. Here is the inscription where it was taken from somewhere, some Hungman Hungman prayer hall. So first line where is the founding ancestor's name is there. Then five branches of Hungman: Tian Tian Ti Hui, San He Hui, Hao Ge Hui, Ge Lao Hui, and Xiao Dao Hui. And there are which places that they were active. That is also mentioned here. But my main point is after 1949 or during the process of revolution, PLA, wherever PLA occupied, these gangs had to leave the place, and most of them took shelter in Hong Kong. Excuse me. Uh, So in 1949, when PLA occupied Guangzhou, a local Hongman head declined to surrender and slipped into Hong Kong, who later named his gang 14K. Actually, I did not note down his name and all these things here because this is not very important for this study. So, for your you might be interested to know that this 14K was his house number in Guangzhou. So his gang name of his gang became 14K, and now there are many gangs which has this kind of 14K something, 14K this that. Okay, so political connection. Sun Yat-sen joined Hongmeng organization in 1904 when he was in Hawaii. He guided them into the path of revolution. And second is another gang I talked about, that Green Gang. Some leaders of Green Gang were closely linked with Chiang Kai-shek during the brutal suppression of communists in Shanghai in 1979. And another name I got, that is Si Thu Mei Thang. He was a Hongmeng member, and he he engaged himself in the war of resistance against Japanese aggression. And 1949, he came back and became attended some of the meetings in the beginning of Thungtan, that United Front meeting. So this is a photograph with Towenlai. Organized crime and Mao era criminal justice. Ideological conformity and social control considerably curtailed crime. So legal system actually developed to serve the party. Concept of class enemy and friend versus enemy dichotomy dominated criminal justice system. In campaign-driven justice system, courts, police, and masses became tools of purges and persecution of class enemies. So criminals were uh, replaced by class enemies. Fear of a governing practice and principle, fear is a governing principle. Many of these aspects are still there. And fear is, of course, a very important instrument of governing China. But this fear is not one-sided. Parties' fear of losing power and people's fear of public trials, etc. This is how China is going on, and still it is continuing. It is not only during Mao era and even Deng Xiaoping era. Deng Xiaoping, unlike Gorbachev did not have any fear of losing power. He was so confident. And Soviet Communist Party was not at all afraid of such losing power. So, but in case of China, they are still there. They talk about parties' dominance. So whenever talking about say, protecting the old leadership and all these things, it all this comes from this fear. So China's planned economy, widespread impoverishment, politicized governance, egalitarianism, highly centralized system, and unified state control left little scope for organized crime to take root, and very notion of organized crime gradually faded from the public consciousness. This was reflected in 1979 criminal law, where there is no mention of organized uh, criminal group. First time, 1981, public security authorities in Shenzhen identified some groups from some criminal groups, criminal organizations, or black society, Hei Shaohui, uh, were active in Shenzhen. And one of them is 14K, okay, and some others. So this 14K, this I'm insisting, I'm mentioning this because it will help us to follow the entire argument, and later also we'll come across a Hungman. So 1990s, terms like underground gang, triad like criminals, and organized crime became popular in media and academic writings. And then 1997, second version of the criminal law referred certain types of crimes as triad-like criminal organized crime. I'm not sure how much the difference between all these terms, but as far as the law is concerned, triad-like organization means it is a transitional state. These gangs are still not full-fledged mafia organization, but by the beginning of this century, this academic discussion, and actually when I was talked about Sun Liping's study of social mistrust. So he was talking about mafia, actually, rise of mafia organizations. So evolutionary phases of organized crime. 1980, public security denied the existence of organized crime. Criminality was linked with smaller groups. Returnees sent down youth, returnees sent down youths and ex-red guards became a major source of offenders. Cross-border groups started entering and spreading across China. So nature of crime was actually crude violence, street fights, etc., etc. Expansion of cross-border syndicates just started. Uh, Evolutionary phase, 1990s. Perpetrators of crime, violent and clandestine group, they started they started consolidating their power and started emerging as triad-like criminal organizations. And with the collaboration, they became powerful and they linked um, with cross-border groups. Crime penetrated into political structures that at multiple levels and secured protection from government functionaries. Organization operated under the guise of legally registered enterprises, embedding themselves in hospitality, entertainment, logistic, and real estate business. Nature of crime spanned kidnapping, trafficking, prostitution, brothel management, etc., etc. And so earlier it was crude weapons they used to 80s they used means their weapons were very crude, and this is the point I made when I was talking about Xinjiang, that um, as government claims that the Xinjiang groups are linked with the international terrorism, but they are what are the most of the cases their weapon is maximum a kitchen knife. So but by the end of 90s, the weaponized violence became uh, open. So 19 2000 onward. So this is the time, as I was talking, this mafia organizations started becoming powerful, and involvement of officials in the criminal network became more serious. Foreign collaborators and private sector enablers extending extended reach beyond China. And then nature of crime. Their activities included extortion, market monopolization, bribery, and embezzlement, expanding globally into parallel economies, etc., etc. All those vices of today's economic crime in China just started from this time. So, economic crimes challenging the party state. Here I have given a list, because no point of talking about all these things separately, because all these things separately are a topic of research. So human trafficking, illicit, all these things is happening in today's China. So here I have given a table. This is based on Ministry of Public Security organization. This is they have released 20 typical cases of crackdown on economic crimes, and uh, this type of economic crime, then amount involved, name of the cases, name of each name, the place name is there, and the surname of the main culprit, and year of judgment is given. So total amount I have checked, it is around uh, 6.22 billion RMB. So, so this much money is involved in 20 cases. But in 2025, courts concluded 36,000 such cases. I'm not sure, I did not calculate this. So that's why I'm saying that much serious research needs to be done to understand. So gambling, in the list I have given earlier, gambling is not there. It is a hidden challenge. Gambling operates as an institutionalized criminal enterprise, combining economic exploitation, social capital, organization discipline, and remain a persistent concern in criminological analysis. Gambling constitutes a major revenue stream for organized crime, operating as a blurred interface between legitimate and illegitimate income channels, and remains accessible across diverse social strata. Around gambling venues, offenses such as loan sharking, prostitution, theft, violence, and other crimes proliferate. Gambling has capacity to corrupt institutions. And here I want to tell them another thing is gambling also has is a social activities, and during festivals people means that home and among friend circles they play gambling. It is almost like in India, but gambling becoming a very serious. So it is very difficult when some social gambling enters into the zone of criminality. So legal sectors are equally vulnerable to um, infiltrate through infiltration, deal with infiltration through match fixing, money laundering, and collusion. These are the problem today's world every country is facing. However, governments across the world cannot resist the attraction of the lucrative business of gambling, lottery, horse racing, etc., etc. So here I have given gambling and other betting games and how, because most of these activities were banned during Mao era. So from early 80s, this again, these are these betting games reappeared in Chinese scene. So I have noted down these things, and I want to highlight only one point here. Macau uh, came under China, became a part of its special administrative region in 1999, and then 2002, casinos gaming liberalization happened, and by 2008, its gaming revenues surpassed that of Las Vegas, Las Vegas, and became a favorite destination of corrupt officials from the mainland. In fact, of 2019 to 2003, there were some crackdowns on various luxury gambling venues in Macau. And after that, a large number of activities spread other places like Cambodia, Thailand, even Burma, Laos. So that is an underground casino. But what happened, what the most serious thing is, underground casinos, illegal lotteries, horse racing, big spread across China and entered into the uh, crossed the mostly these kind of crimes were urban affairs. Now it became rural, entered into the penetrated into the rural areas. Illegal online gambling has proliferated, and criminal groups exploit legal sports lotteries for match fixing, all these things. So some of them are legally approved, some of them are many of them are um, violations of restrictions and laws of the land. So another aspect happened from 2000 onward, diversification upon organized crime, meaning is uh, those a new group of people entered into the criminal world. So first is gangsterization, hey Panghua, penetration of organized crime into rural life and grassroots governance. Syndicates um, embed themselves in village politics and rural economy, complicated because of the close nexus between criminals and local governance. It becomes reinforcement becomes a complicated situation, becomes very difficult. Gambling, and what happens because of widespread gambling activities in the rural areas is it causes disproportionate losses on households, eroding fragile economic securities in many places. Another level of diversification happened among minority migrant labor. Migrant laborers were coerced into crime. Their serious vulnerability, and unfortunately, a large number of people, even academicians, even sociologists in China, they think that migrant workers um, are criminals. They're perceived as criminals. So with this, it becomes difficult, but most of the cases they become perpetrators and victims of coercion by criminal syndicates. So here I have given some data, and I think this is a report. This more serious data. Possibly we can find out more number of people, cases were there. So before Beijing Olympic, for 400,000 to 500,000 people nationwide um, was uh, detained, and from this group, migrant groups, in, for correcting their behavior and other issues. So another diversified group is corporate world. So transformation of gangs into ostensibly legitimate corporate fronts. Business structures are used as cover, ringleaders remain in the shadows, expansion into logistics, transportation, illicit, illicit lending and construction, etc., etc. And they have diversified the business also. Violence replaced by soft coercion, intimidation, stalking, and harassment. blurs boundaries between legal enterprise and criminal activity. Here I've given a name of a person, is Ma Xing-tian, founder of Kangmei Pharmaceutical Company, who was arrested in 2019. And no, 2019, he was sentenced to a 12-year imprisonment for some financial crime. So these are the new areas of crime. And another level of diversification, it is actually not diversification. It was, these gangs were diversified. They spread across China. So that's why told that Hongman group, Sun Yat-sen joined Hongman group while he was in Hawaii. So they were already there, all over the world. So emergence of transnational syndicates in reform era, it happened again because it was already there, but Chinese women's mainland connection became more acute. Gambling became a structural driver of global illicit economies. Expansion into cross-border and online platforms creating dual structures, provincial dens and transnational networks. Criminal markets extend globally, forming parallel economies. Here I have given a photograph. It is taken from Washington Post. And there are some names here. They are mainly uh, mainly mm, in charge of some areas. For example, Uganda, South Africa, and I believe that these people are, there are much more such leaders, human leaders are there, who are who work from all over the world. Their main purpose is influence other than criminal activities, but their criminal activities is mostly very legal way they do it. They do, usually they um, follow the laws of those countries. So patriotic criminal syndicates. Contemporary Chinese triads, notably the Hongmeng, has transformed from criminal syndicates into hybrid organizations serving the party state's domestic and geopolitical interest. Abroad, triad-linked networks are mobilized to advance Beijing's soft power, while at home they remain subject to periodic strike hard campaigns, yet are secretively tolerated or co-opted when aligned with the party's interest. By involving their invoking their anti-Qing revolutionary heritage, these groups like Hongman legitimize themselves as patriotic defenders of Chinese identity and sovereignty. So, I will talk about social governance. That's the one part of the discussion. So here this is based on my monograph. I put most of the data in my, and the AI, Gemini, and Gemini gave me um, this sketch. So Mao era to reform era. So I wanted to say that here strike hard campaigns, uh, mostly reactive, and means, for example, strike hard started in 1983, and then intermittently it was sometimes it became it was intensified, and then in 90s, and then again sometimes it was means the government became very strongly wanted to suppress some groups and all these things. So and even 2000 onward till 2010, these groups were somehow, this kind of activities were somehow there. But as crime became more digital, kind of crime became more technology dependent crime. So the strike hard campaigns became improvised, and under Xi Jinping era, big data, state, social credit system, all these things, institutional mechanisms, surveillance. So this proactive governance, and which Xi Jinping talked about, social governance, 社会 really. So this now I will come to Xi period, because no point, I'm not discussing about other time. So Xi's anti-corruption campaigns, pervasive corruption created serious legitimacy crisis for the party by 2010. Corruption permeates the party's moral and ideological standards. The campaign has presented as essential to national stability, clean governance, etc., etc. So she tapped this campaign to bolster his image as a leader, restoring purity of the party. So, but we know he eliminated his rivals, and so many people, almost from 2012 to 2024, over 6 million uh, party members and 1.5 million officials and cadres were punished. So huge number. Whether we will consider it as Xi Jinping's success or not, we are not sure. The campaign expanded to target political disloyalty, lavish lifestyles, and even superstitious practices, etc., etc. Okay. So it has a very widespread, it is a single campaign Xi Jinping concentrated on, and for a long time he is doing. But recently there is a change. So Central Commission of Discipline Inspection was empowered to investigate leaders, punish local cadres, and hunt down criminals. This is Tahu, Tahu, Taiying, and Liehu. So this is the hunting and so this is three uh, uh, tiger, flies, and fox. So the attack was all level. So leadership, and then common cadets, and then criminal world. So actually,
Dr.
he,
Chaudhary, can I request you to wind up in about five
yeah,
minutes?
yeah, I will do that.
Thank you.
So Xi Jinping's corruption drive now included crime and gambling. Okay, so I'm not talking about these legal things. So 2018, sweeping away organized crime, rooted out evil campaign explicitly combined anti-corruption with crime control. So I'm not talking about this slide. I'm not talking about this slide. And analytical insight. So reform era gave rise to violent offenses, organized crime, etc., etc. Recurring strike hard campaigns relied on coercive mobilization targeting so-called ideological pollution, liberal intellectuals, democratic dissents, student protest, and Falun Gong, etc., etc. Even in 2000, in this century, in the beginning, under Hu Jintao and Wang Jiabao, the uh, target was just now I mentioned migrant workers were the target rather than genuine social vices, dealing with social vices. Collusion between officials and criminal groups reveal moral degeneration. Gambling became a structural driver linking grassroots gangs with the transnational network. The Sweeping Away campaign and legal reform mark a decisive institutionalization of governance of crime control. And my concluding remark here, China's performance in 3 campaigns reflects enduring challenges. Gambling in various forms can corrupt people at all levels of institution, all institutional corruption, lead to institutional corruption. Notably, the law against organized crime contains no explicit provisions for enforcing measures against gambling. Finally, the trajectory from episodic, as I was saying, that intermittently strike-hard campaign was carried out, trajectory from episodic campaigns to institutionalized enforcement highlights the consolidation of a security-first paradigm, which safeguards stability but further blurs boundaries between justice and repression. Thank you. With this, I want to uh,
Thank you, Dr. Chaudhary. That was
thank
a
you for your
fascinating overview.
patience. Thank you for your patience.
Yeah. Thank you for that. That was a fascinating historical overview of how crime has evolved, and specifically, then you focused on gambling. I'll just pose a few questions, and then we will look at the chat box and see if any others have questions. So yes, Subhagya Singh is asking, will we have a Q&A session? So yes, so we start the Q&A session now. So please feel free to type in your questions. So my question, Dr. Chaudhary, is that you have mentioned that throughout there have been spikes, ups and downs in campaigns against crime and also gambling. So my question is, and also you mentioned that the flourishing of Macau as a gambling destination for the elites was also a phenomenon. So my question is, has there been a movement for legalization of gambling or betting on sports or any such activity in China with a view to expand the economic benefits or to formalize it? Or is that always, as you said, the state has kept it ambiguous and kept it in a gray area? Or have there been periods when there have been steps towards legalization? So that's my first question. The second question is more contemporary. Now that China is going through a economically difficult period and domestic consumption is not increasing, is this topic more relevant now? Are there steps to legalize some of these gray zone activities to revive economic growth? Because certain parts of China, at least, will benefit from a larger hospitality industry and so on, like what was thriving in Macau. So, is there any thinking around that? And my third and last question is that a lot of poorer provinces in China, which border the ASEAN countries, where some of these syndicates have proliferated, has this become a sticking point in China's relationship with these countries, or is there a center and local dynamic where some of these poorer provinces are urging the central government to tolerate such activities because, in some way, it is generating economic spillovers for these poorer provinces in China? So, what are the center and local dynamics of this issue? Are there certain provinces which are softer on gambling or any other illegal activity? So these are my three questions. Maybe you can take a shot at answering them, and then I'll pick up some more questions from the chat box. Thank you.
Okay. Ups and downs of campaigns. Yes, this is a phenomena. These are mostly political campaigns. Uh, yes, and Macau, as I was saying, that recent crackdowns, 2019 to 2023 crackdowns. So there is some legalization, and again, some new campaigns started as I was talking about. So the porous boundaries and porous provinces where it is easier for anybody to cross whenever, for example, Yunnan, for example, Guangxi, Guangzhou. So whenever there is some crackdown of some uh, gambling den or some criminal den inside China, it is very easy for the criminals to cross over these countries. So, yes, recently ongoing anti-crime campaigns is going on. So that's why Xi Jinping started with anti-corruption campaign, and long time for a long time he's continuing with that. But now, and with the anti-corruption campaign, crime also he started handling, because identified that many uh, government functionaries um, got involved with the criminal activities, and they behave as a protector. So protector of these criminals. So recently, this three. That's why I mentioned three anti campaigns. So one is anti-crime, one is anti-corruption, and one is anti-gambling crime is going on. So this is one. That is then legalization. Yes, lots of law. As you know, whenever there is some problem in China, they come up with a law. So I mean, you know better. So so when there is no unity among ethnicities, they make law, ethnic unity law. So these things happen. So there are some laws, and there are some criminal laws for, I think, 12, the last 12 amendment, at 11th and 12 amendments, 2023 and 2022 and 24, I think. During this time, so now latest criminal law, in 2024 criminal law, there is some changes. There is some say, punishment, say, level of punishment, intensified the punishment. Okay, so 2 years imprisonment became 3 years imprisonment became 5 years imprisonment. But so this legal kind of arrangements has been taken, and another legal document they have came out with, that is anti anti organized crime law against an organized crime. So this is a law they came and said they passed in uh, some of the slides I mentioned, which, yeah, very recently, actually, 2023, I think. Anyway, these last few years, recent years. So these are, so legalization, of course, there is an aim of legalization, but and attempt of another level of campaigns. So this present anti-gambling campaign actually uh, looking into this cross-border gambling activities and cooperating with countries like Laos, Cambodia, then Thailand and other things. But at the same time, they have their means, national interest. So sometimes there is some confrontation as well. So cooperation and confrontation are going on as well as suppressing gambling in these places, means, which are mainly, means, dealing with, means, the flow of Chinese money is involved in these cases. So another is economic difficulty. So as I was saying that this is mainly so gray zones of activities. See, hospitality business, criminals were easily entered into hospitalizing hospitalities business. Okay, it started in 90s onward, and then now corporates are also involved. So yes, this is a uh, but I think government knows how to. Uh, I don't know. Government try to manipulate all these things in a better way. I don't know much about this. So hospitality is still going on. As I think you know better all these things. So business affairs and other things. I think you look into all these things in a better way. So
Thank
so
you. Thank you,
this is
Dr.
my
Chaudhary.
side.
Now I'll just turn to the chat box, and Ritusha has asked a question. You argue that repeated anti-crime and anti-gambling campaigns have not eliminated organized crime because of the enduring nexus between criminal networks and state officials. Does this suggest that the problem is not weak enforcement, but structural political incentives within China's governance system? If so, can campaign style governance ever address such a structural problem? Also, you conclude that China has moved from periodic strike hard campaigns to institutionalized anti crime governance, yet organized crime and gambling remain remarkably resilient. Should this resilience be interpreted as a limitation of state capacity, or does it reveal that China's governance model prioritizes political control over the eradication of illicit economies? So, this is one question. Second question from Mr. Rappai is that what are the linkages of criminal groups in Taiwan, Hong Kong, and Thailand crime syndicates? And the third question in the chat box is mainly pertaining to offshore gambling. So I think it's similar. So maybe you could throw more light on how this has crossed borders into neighboring countries, and what are these linkages that operate, and what are their dynamics, maybe. Thank you.
Excuse me, last question. Could you
The
please?
last question was a build up of the second question. What are the linkages of criminal groups in Taiwan, Hong Kong, and Thailand? So, the third question is about offshore gambling. They want to know more about how these networks operate.
Uh, so uh, I cannot say these are reason is weak enforcement. If China wants, it can, and it is trying its best. So, but this what is Sun Liping said that mistrust is growing. It is social mistrust, and see within party also there is widespread mistrust. So, mm, uh, so in one hand, enforcement is going on, and at the same time, there are people who are supporting. So corruption became so deep rooted um, within the officials and cadres, party and government, then it is very difficult to see. Even sometimes those who are involved in the work of in reinforcement task, they are also colluded with criminals. So these are closely linked. Means a complicated situation happens. Okay, so new laws means I mentioned that criminal law means that law against organized crime. I have mentioned some of the articles of those law where punishments there is are mentioned, discussed about the what kind of punishment will be given to the officials. So but There are arrest and purging is happening at the same time. Crime is also going on. So I cannot say it is because of weakness, but this weakness is more political weakness than the systemic weakness. Means system means police force they can do, but whether the leadership will allow it to various level leadership at various levels will allow it or not. But another point is this gangsterization of gambling or gangsterization. That is that phenomena actually took crime into deeper social level. So that is so that of course it is weakens the entire system. So institutional and I think yeah, structural, how structural reform. They don't talk about political reform, as you know, but at the same time, structural changes means, see, so many so many means I mentioned that in last 12 years, 2012 to 2024, almost 6 million cadets were uh, punished. So this is a huge number. So how can you change the structure? Structure is the party. So dismantle the party. Is this possible? I don't know. This is a very, otherwise, this is a very competent leadership. So, and yes, resilience, another, yes, and one level of resilience is that Chinese party state can, as I was mentioning, that they can co-opt bigger gangs and they take their help outside to popularize Chinese position, and at the same time they can use these bigger gangs against smaller gangs. So if it is called resilience of the state, then it is the resilience. So linkages, yes, there are linkages. That's what I was saying, that there were linkages. Cross-border linkages has grown over the years in the reform era, and now it is much serious. So transnational linkages with grassroots politics, grassroots crime. So it becomes so serious. And Taiwan, Hong Kong, I did not look into all these things for this purpose, for this study. But yes, I came across writings where this criminal groups. Actually, I did not do this uh, all these gang study all these gangs. I have given an overall picture. It is just the beginning of some kind of study. So yeah, another is offshore. See, online gambling became popular. With online gambling, host is sitting outside the country, so it becomes easier for um, running this kind of business. So this is, I think, I have tried to cover all these questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Chowdhury. Any more questions? So I will maybe try to conclude with the Indian perspective. India banned real money gaming apps last year, and before that, for about I think a few years before that, a lot of Chinese internet applications had also launched in India, trying to launch gaming applications and so on. Without going into the policy, imperatives which made India ban such apps, I think culturally, Indians also gamble on Diwali, and we have a propensity towards as a society towards gambling. In many ways, I think there is a parallel in China where people do, if there are more than four or five people together, and for a prolonged period of time, they like to gamble. So there are some commonalities, but I struggle to see what India can learn from China's treatment of gambling industry or indeed any other crime, because our legal codes are very, very clear on what is a crime and what is not a crime. Our three limbs of our government are very clear on what role each has to play in it. So I struggle to see an Indian perspective on this. But I will also maybe conclude by encouraging our viewers to take the opportunity to visit a museum in Beijing, which is not very far from Tiananmen Square, which is completely dedicated to criminology and various parts of the criminal law justice system, enforcement, interrogation, and so on. When I visited it, I think maybe 10 years ago, it you could easily spend 2 to 3 hours because it was actually quite informative. It gave a lot of historical insights into how the criminal justice system has evolved in China. So I'll just end this talk today on this note. Thank you, Dr. Chowdhury, again for joining us today. And with this, I think we can conclude this session. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Um, Thank you, sir. Um, Thank you, Chair. I would seek the permission to formally end the session, perhaps. Okay. So with this, we come to the end of today's seminar. We thank Dr. Debashis Chaudhary and Mr. Santosh Pai for gracing today's seminar with their presence and for giving us the valuable time. We also thank the audience for joining us today. The video of today's seminar will be available on ICA's YouTube channel. We extend a warm invitation to the upcoming Wednesday seminar the next week. Detail about upcoming events can be found on ICA's website, and you may also subscribe to our newsletter for regular updates. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today.